Hi, I'm Sam, and you're watching OTN, the Obscure Truth Network. Earlier this week, I was in a local Texas municipal court where I did something very unusual. I represented myself, and I had a few questions about the complaint filed against me. I want you to take a look at something very basic, and that's the courtroom layout itself. I want you to look in the center of the room, right behind the chair, and you see that great big symbol. That's the sign of the state. And if you'll notice, that narrow hallway is very brightly lit. Now, this is all done very intentionally so that when the judge comes out from behind the chamber, he's bathed in this bright white light where he sits upon his great throne raised above the floor so that he's the highest person in the room. Now, all men are of course created equally, but he just likes to sit a little higher. Government's authority relies solely upon your perception and their legitimacy. When you withdraw your consent, that is, you no longer view the government as moral or legitimate, their power is diminished, and governments will go to great lengths to ensure that that doesn't happen on any kind of a large scale. The public government-run school systems are one perfect example of how children are taught at a young age to respect the authority of the state, and one of the ways they do that is the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, the pledge was written by Francis Bellamy, who was a National Socialist. For those of you that don't know, that's the Nazi Party. He also happened to be a flag salesman. Now, most people are completely unaware that the city or town that you might live in is nothing more than a government-created fiction known as a corporation. Now, companies exist to solve needs in the marketplace, and there's something very different about government-created corporations, and that's that they have a monopoly on the use of force. So many times, government-created companies will simply legislate themselves a monopoly on the marketplace. We're going to compare one specific one, and that's dispute resolution between parties, in which case the government has stepped in to mandate in almost all cases that the government companies known as the courts be used. We're going to compare that with an even more basic need, and that is the need for food, and show how the free marketplace has solved that problem. Now, when I go down the street to my corner grocery store, I can choose from literally thousands of products that exist in this store. And if I can't find what I'm looking for, I can go directly across the street to a Whole Foods market where alternative or organic products and more exotic spices and foods and different things from around the world are available at my fingertips. And as if that wasn't enough, there's a third grocery store I can choose from on the diagonal corner. Now, I'm perfectly capable of walking into almost any grocery store, finding the products I need and putting them in my basket, but I'm also free to hire a personal shopper who would go and do these things for me, might have more experience and be able to pick out superior products and produce. But with the government courts, how many times have you heard the phrase, "Whoa, you better get a lawyer for that, this sounds serious"? And that's because in the government-run court systems, new laws are created all the time. There's overlapping case law that's constantly being added, resulting in a bureaucratic quagmire. While when we look at the private market, the way it's solved the need for food, companies are incented to make it easier and more efficient for me to walk in the store, find the products and services that I'm looking for, and be on my way in the most efficient manner possible. Now, when it comes to dispute resolution, in the government courts, I only have one company to choose from. If I want expert advice, I must seek the advice of a state-approved, state-licensed lawyer. And these lawyers are required to join a cult known as the bar, whereby they swear an oath to the state. Now, if I'm going in to question the authority and the legitimacy of the state, is there a conflict of interest if the only lawyer I can hire has also sworn an oath to the state? I'm sure lawyers would be able to find a way to tell you it's not, but common sense clearly demonstrates that it is. Now, if I have a sick kid at home and need to get a prescription filled while I wait, I can simply drop by the pharmacy, drop off the prescription, and they'll do their best to fill it. They will also consult with me to make sure I understand how to use the product and to make sure that I'm picking the right product for me and that the side effects are going to be tolerable and manageable. In the case of the government courts, if I want them to do something in a hurry, I have to file an ex parte motion begging the court to please accept it while I wait. And by the way, if it's formatted wrong, they're simply going to throw it away. Whereas a pharmacy would work to resolve any problems with me because, well, they want my business. Now at the grocery store, when it comes time to check out, I'm free to choose from a number of available cashiers typically. If I only have a few items, I can go to the express lane, and if I'm antisocial, well, then you can use the self-checkout where you don't even have to interface with a human. In the government court systems, when it's time to check out or get another court date, you have to wait in long lines typically and go see an unruly bureaucrat sitting 2 feet back from a bulletproof window with a small hole cut in it that you can barely hear them through while they dictate what it is you need to do. What does all this mean? Simply this. When the free market is allowed to create a solution, as it mostly is for computers, the internet, and food, it responds with an abundance of products in a number of differentiating ways with lots of choices and additional services. When the government handles food, you get breadlines, and of course, men with guns. When it comes to dispute resolution, there's only one company controlling the market. They get to pick which lawyer in a black dress presides over you, and they're working to adopt cutting-edge new technologies like email. If you want to understand how the free market works in absence of government, there's a link to a free audiobook at the end of this film. With that context in mind, let's take a look at how this company chooses to resolve disputes.
Is that some evidence you're going to give the judge? Or?
No, this is for me to record.
Okay.
I've looked through the criminal code and it says,
yeah.
You know, we're allowed to, there's freedom of the press to ensure that the state employees are following their own rules.
When you are called forward, then at that point, ask the judge.
Okay. Okay.
O great one who cometh from the bright light, the judge is all-powerful, he is the law.
I believe all people are created equally, and I have some questions about the nature of our relationship. All right.
You want to cross the bench, sir?
I'd like to sit here.
I'd like for you to come up here, sir.
My knees kind of
Sir,
hurt from dance
that's fine
class.
about your knees. Would you come up here, please?
Okay.
You won't need any of that material.
It has my notes in it. I'm ready to enter a guilty plea and pay my money and get out of here.
Is that what you'd like to do?
Well, I read that in order to do that, I have to knowingly and willfully enter the plea with full understanding of the nature and cause of the charges against me. So I have a few questions.
I have a question for you, sir, if you don't mind. I'll
Okay.
try to beat the judge today. Get your elbows off the bench, please.
Okay.
Turn around and stay in front, please. Mr.
I
Bailey,
thought we
if
just
you
sit
need
at the
some
table.
time, that's fine, sir. You'll be right here with me. This won't take you all that long. The charge was speeding.
Mm-hmm.
And the allegation is that you were going 62 in a 45. And you're plea to that, sir.
I have a few questions.
I didn't ask you that, sir. I asked you what you please.
Am I required to understand the nature and cause of the proceedings
Do
against
you
me?
understand the plea, sir?
Am I required to understand the nature?
Not guilty plea.
On whose behalf are you entering that plea, sir?
On yours.
Okay, so you represent me in these proceedings?
No, sir, I'm just not going to put up with it. I'll just have you enter a not guilty plea.
I'm not entering a not guilty
Would you
plea,
like
sir.
a
I have
jury
some
trial or a
questions.
trial before the court? You don't question me, sir.
Okay, so what just happened there? A lot transpired in a very short time. So what was going on is I was beginning to ask my questions to understand, the rules of the court, of how this complaint process works, what my rights are, under the law, in order to make sure I understood the charges and what actions were being brought against me. And the judge didn't like that very much, and he actually entered a plea on my behalf. Now, all of the parties involved here are supposed to be separate without conflicts of interest. Now, if the judge is entering a plea on my behalf, that means that he's representing me. So if he's representing me and he's presiding over me, wouldn't that be a conflict of interest? The other thing is, pleas have to be entered in a certain way. The Supreme Court has said that they have to be knowingly, voluntarily entered with a clear understanding of the nature of the charge against me and the penalties for the offense. So if I don't understand all of these things and I'm not doing this knowingly and willingly and voluntarily, it's not really a valid plea. So I wanted to make sure I was at that point. Okay.
If you want to talk to the prosecutor, take him to the prosecutor. I don't prosecute, sir.
Okay, so the prosecutor can answer questions about these proceedings?
Sure, he can be very helpful.
Okay,
You're having that problem.
great.
Your
Let's go.
record is being made here.
Records being made here. What does that mean, sir?
You'll need to enter your plea here.
Okay,
Thank
so,
you, sir. We'll go with that.
okay.
Now,
I wonder how the courts work in China. Now, at the end, he pawned me off on the prosecutor, and I asked if the prosecutor could answer questions about the procedures, and he said yes, which he has got to know if he is a judge that that is completely false. The prosecutor cannot answer questions about the court, and he knew that he was pawning me off. Now, I think the reason that he wanted to get me out of there is because standing behind me was a room full of people seeing me up there questioning the legitimacy of the court and seeing me stand up and exercise an option other than what they've been told is available to them, and he wanted to put a stop to that. So he got me off into another room where he could keep me at bay until the courtroom could be cleared out.
I have a seat. Prosecutor, he'll be in charge.
Whatever you want to do is
Okay.
fine. Please don't, I can't influence your decision, so whatever you want to do.
Sometimes they just make it too easy.
Yes, he has a recording device with me, and the judge told him that the judge would do the recording in the courtroom. And on to enter a plea of guilty, but he has some questions. Sure. And the judge told him, okay, I'm gonna set you for a not guilty plea. And
Now, who is that copy boy over in the corner? He looks awfully familiar to me. Wait a minute, that's Mr. Moore. He's the one who filed the complaint against me. Gee, you don't suppose they brought him in to intimidate me, do you? The courts wouldn't do anything like that. I'm sure it's just purely coincidence. Unfortunately, my camera seemed to unnerve him a little bit. Sorry about that.
so there's some questions on that. Are you recording now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if the prosecutor wants that to occur, so.
Well, that's in the criminal code,
Well,
isn't it?
okay. he's
Are you
gonna
guys not
address those-
interested in?
I'll ask.
Don't argue with me, he's gonna
I'm
address
asking
those
a
things
question.
with you, okay?
I'm asking a question. The law is there to allow.
Address it.
Do whatever you want.
Okay, great.
Let me,
Need a minute?
do you want these two trials as well?
Now, the bailiff was mistaken. What the judge actually said is the record will be taken here. And what he meant by that is that when I come back, the only thing he really wants to hear is how I'm going to plead in the case. Unfortunately, pretrials have a wider scope than that. They are to look at the facts in the case, and they are also an appropriate place to file any kind of special motions with the court before the trial begins. Now, I filed several motions with the court, one of which was a motion to strike or dismiss the case, and the judge didn't even bother to respond. The court clerk told me that the petition, the motion to dismiss, required no action on the judge's behalf. Now, I went on and asked the prosecutor questions which I knew he could not answer because he's not the court, and he cannot answer questions about the court and the procedures of the court. When the judge told me that he could, that was misleading at best.
Questions for me, sir?
Yeah, so
Is that on? I've been told that you can only make recordings in the courtroom, and I'll do whatever you need me to do. And I'm happy to look at whatever you have.
So right here, I filed motions with the court. Is it my understanding then, this is Criminal Code, Article 2, Section 3, duty of the trial court, the attorney representing the accused, the attorney representing the state, and all peace officers to conduct themselves as to ensure that, so on and so on, to afford the public the benefits of a free press. So the court does not intend to honor that.
I'm not the court, sir. I work for the city. of
Okay,
Richardson.
well, the judge won't answer my question.
No, I think, I don't know the judge's intentions. What I know is that my job as a prosecutor has nothing to do with this.
Okay. Well, I also motion the court for the audio and video recording. When do I
And
get
then
that?
he will take care of, the judge will either make a ruling on your motion or do whatever he sees
Okay, I
fit.
filed another motion to dismiss and strike, and he said there was no action required. So just what is going on here? Because
The only thing that I can advise you to do if you have these issues is to hire an attorney. I'm not your
willing to
attorney,
do
so I
that.
can't give you advice.
Okay, am I entitled to a fair trial?
Yeah, everyone is.
Okay,
Does that have, yes.
does
you are.
that mean that I'm required to understand the nature and cause of the proceedings brought against me?
I'm sure that you're reading out of a book, so what do you want me to tell you?
Yes or no? I'd like a responsive answer to my questions.
I'm not obligated to give you any type of answer. If you have questions about your charges, I'm happy to answer.
After what?
I'm happy to answer any questions you have related to a plea negotiation.
Okay, is there an allegation of injury?
I have not looked at your file. If you'd like me to, I can get back to you.
Yeah, that's pretty
What are you charged
important. Whatever the guy made up, I don't know. I was held by two armed men on the side of the road who refused to tell me why I was pulled over, refused to produce identification when I questioned who they were. Then they pulled me out of the car and proceeded to threaten me on the side of the road for about 45 minutes.
I haven't even looked at
And
your
now I've got
citation.
a judge in there who apparently doesn't represent me, but he can enter pleas on my behalf without
You have to
representing
make a
me.
plea. You have to make a plea of service.
I have to understand
Right.
the nature and cause of the proceedings against me, and he's
I'm not here
refusing to do
be
that.
abrasive to you. If you have any questions that fall within my job description that
Okay.
isn't going to get me in trouble, I'm happy to answer.
Do you have the burden of proof?
Me personally?
Mm-hmm. Or the prosecutor?
Yeah.
You're the state's lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do, yes.
Do you have time to stick around and ask these questions and let me actually read your paperwork? I'm happy
Sure.
to talk to you for as long as you want.
That's fine.
I'm just,
I wanna
I'm in
get-
the middle of a docket. And you can sit through all this too if you want. I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
be
you
here
can-
until I get my questions
I don't
answered.
think you're going to be able to record in the courtroom unless you file a motion for that.
I did, but he ignored it. Now, eventually, I went back into the courtroom. The judge was in the middle of another case when, after a few minutes, he called me up. Now, he didn't let me leave the seating area of the courtroom and didn't want me, I guess, up by the bench, where he had the following to say. I was only able to capture the audio of this portion. Here it is.
Come down there. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I don't know that you had a chance to talk to the prosecutor. I've looked at your paperwork here, and you told me down here that you wanted to plead not guilty, guilty. Is that what you want to do? Because I understand that there are a lot of questions that you can ask, and I certainly want you to have the opportunity to do that. It might be best in your case, if you have those kind of questions, that you go to a lawyer or hire yourself a lawyer, or go ahead and if you want to, you can enter your plea to me and we can act accordingly. We don't, in a pre-trial, spend a lot of time going over a lot of things. And I want you to understand that. I'm not trying to shove you around. I'm just trying to get you to understand that as a pre-trial that we have today, stay where you are. What we're here for is to determine what your plea is going to be and then what we do from that point.
And in order for me to plea, I am to understand the nature of...
My point is, do you have a copy of your complaint?
I do.
Then you know what the charge is, and there is no further explanation that comes from the bench.
So I'm not to understand...
Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't
No,
give
sir, I
any...
don't understand.
Well, then listen carefully.
Okay?
I don't give explanations of the charge.
I'm not
I don't
asking-
get involved in things. Don't talk. Listen.
Okay.
Therefore, I am here today only for the purposes of taking your plea. I am not explaining the case. I'm not explaining the rights. Those are things that you get outside of here. So what is it you want to do?
So, if I understand you correctly, then this court does not recognize habeas corpus? That sounds like what you're telling me, sir.
Well,
You're telling
let me
that
tell you
that's-
let me tell you one more time what I do recognize today, all right? And then you lock in on that and not all the things that you can think of. I am here today asking you to enter your plea to the matter with which you've been charged. And you have a copy of the citation, so you know that it's speeding, you know where it took place, and that's what the state has to prove against you. You have to prove nothing. And you are not constrained, nor confined, nor in jail, nor otherwise precluded from doing those things which you normally do. Today, you are here for the sole purpose of telling me that you are either not guilty, or plead no contest.
After this experience, I really was left wondering what the courts in China are like. If I don't really have to understand what's happening, what actions are being taken against me, and these people are willing to proceed against my will without my consent, why do I really even need to be there in my own defense? And I'll tell you why. It's because of the perception of legitimacy that is so important. I mean, listen to the judge as he pleads over and over and over again for me to accept his authority. What he's really saying is, Sam, it scares us when you don't recognize us as legitimate, when you don't respect our authority, because that's where we gain all of our power from. So would you please accept our authority by participating in the system? Look, we're giving you all of these steps and all of these things where you can get involved and become part of this and feel like you're getting a fair deal, like this is justice.
And what if
And if you plead no contest, you can certainly ask the court if the court would grant you further adjudication. That's what you want.
Wait a minute, did he just say that's what you want? Is the judge, who's not representing me but entering pleas on my behalf, now also telling me what I want? And if you're like me, you're also asking and wondering about now, why doesn't this guy just say, okay, Sam, what is it you don't understand?
If you need further explanation of these things, then you can, one, talk to the prosecutor, but more effectively, you can hire your own attorney, because the prosecutor is not here to give you legal advice.
I have questions for the
I
prosecutor?
don't, that's not, I'm asking you, sir, for your plea at this time.
And I'm asking, am I required to understand the nature and cause of the proceedings against me?
Do you understand them?
I do not. I have
All right.
questions about that.
And when the time comes properly, push the file. I'm going to go ahead just to expedite your situation and give you the opportunity to get yourself an attorney who can give you what information you want, because, listen to me, we do not provide the information from this bench. Do you understand? Therefore, you have a copy of your complaint,
I do not understand, sir.
and you need to be able to do it. I'm going to go ahead, sir, and ask you.
Sir, I don't
How do
understand
you
what
plead
you
to
told
the,
me.
sir, how do you plead to the offense?
I do not understand the nature and cause of the proceedings
That
against
being
me,
the case,
sir.
you will have ample time to get yourself an attorney.
Sir, I have
I will
questions
enter you
about
a plea
that.
of not guilty and set you
On
for a
whose
jury
behalf
trial.
are you entering
Would
that
take
plea,
this
sir?
to the gentleman and then
Are
start
you
to the
representing me
window
here?
so that he can do this. Just go with the bail, sir. He'll help you to the window.
What
and
just
he'll give
happened?
you a
Because I
trial.
really don't understand.
Would you take
sir.
the man with you, sir? Go to the bail.
You're threatening me now? Oh, so then I'm not required to leave?
You're required, the judge is
Okay, so you are threatening me to remove me.
Respectfully, escort you to the lobby.
This is fraud, sir.
There you go. Railroaded in the good old US of A. Now watch, it's amazing to me that even after this, they're still coming out begging for my consent, begging for my participation to sign their forms, to take their paperwork, to do all of these things that will make me become a part of their process and acknowledge their authority.
And now you're threatening me.
I'm not threatening.
What is that?
This is what the judge has given you.
I
It's a
haven't
trial.
accepted a plea. I'm not going to take paperwork.
This is what the judge has given you.
He hasn't given it to
The
me.
clerk will call you forward. He has instructed me to give you this.
Okay. Has he instructed me to take it? Because I don't recognize his authority. I only recognize your willingness to threaten me.
I'm not threatening you, sir.
You just threatened to remove me from the
I did
courtroom.
not.
If I was not willing
I
to
was following
go,
the judge's instructions.
okay.
Are you going to take this?
I don't understand what's happening here. I didn't enter a plea. I'd like to know what's going on.
Well, the judge has explained that.
No, he just entered a plea on my behalf because apparently he represents me in these proceedings.
It's a not guilty.
Yeah, I don't understand the nature and cause of the charges, so I'd like those explained to me as required by the Texas Criminal
What the
Code.
judge wants you to do is to get in line. The clerk will call you forward and we'll set a court date for you for trial.
Great, and I'm saying I don't understand what's happened, and the law says that I'm required to understand, and he's refusing
Ask the-
to acknowledge my
ask the
rights.
clerk and they
I've
will-
also filed motions with the court that he has refused to acknowledge as well. So just what's going on here?
Okay.
Am I just being railroaded?
Okay. I'm not going to discuss it any further.
Okay,
I'm following the instructions of the judge.
I understand.
Court. So he instructed me to give this to you.
he did not
Escort you
instruct
the
me to
lobby.
take that, so I won't.
You're not going to take it.
Well-
Okay? I'll advise the judge.
I'll go back in.
No, he said to escort you out of the courtroom, which I have done.
Okay. Did you say I'm not to return?
If you want to talk to the judge further, you can have a seat there and I'll give him that request.
Did he say I am not to return?
Yes.
He
He
did.
said to escort you to the lobby,
And you
which
did.
I've done.
So now I should be
So-
free to re-enter if I have not been told not to return, correct?
Sir, I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
If you want to talk to the judge again, I will
I'd
tell
like
him
to
that.
understand what's happened here because he's entered a plea on my behalf and apparently he represents me.
Okay. Have a seat and I'll convey that to the
Great.
judge.
It's also funny how they continue to control access to the "O great one who cometh from the light." What's that?
Paperwork for your trial?
Well, hold on a minute. If it's my trial, I'd like to call it off. The fact is, it's a guy named Judge who's demanding a trial, and his demands are backed up by a group of armed men who work for the same company that's bringing a complaint against me. There is no conflict of interest. Whatever you do, do not think of a small dog. This group of people is in no way a criminal enterprise known as the Blue Light Gang. Yep.
And if you want it recorded, then you can request that on this.
I'd like to understand what's happened so far, and I don't, and I'm not going to be railroaded into a trial by a kangaroo court. That's what's happening, and it's just unacceptable.
Okay, that's up to you, sir. We can just mail this to you.
Okay, I'm free to go then? Well, I'd like to understand, but apparently the court's not interested in, ensuring that habeas corpus is followed here, so I don't see the point. I mean, am I free to go?
Nobody told you. It's a mystery to the court. You don't even get jail time, so.
I can what?
But in this mystery to court, we don't even have jail time, so you're free to go always.
So what happens, Hey, how about that? As it turns out, you don't have to wait in line and go to the clerk's window. They're perfectly willing to set you a court date without your consent or your understanding, for that matter. Now watch how desperately in the coming footage they really want me to participate. Please accept our authority. Please get involved here and make this process, our process, become yours through your participation. See, the problem is if governments went off and did whatever they wanted, they would collapse pretty quickly because people wouldn't believe. People need things that draw them in through their participation, things like voting. See, you have a voice, you can vote like everybody else. Or if you really want to change things, get yourself elected to Congress, and then you can go make a real difference, right? And then there's also the courts. Now, you can fight anything the government does to you in a government court. Of course, they're using your money to fight you back if you're suing the government or if they're coming after you. And you do get a fair shake, right? I mean, this video has certainly demonstrated that.
You refused to enter a plea, so
I didn't
by law, the
refuse
judge
to
is
enter a
required
plea.
to not give a guilty
No, sir. I asked
Everyone's
questions.
entitled to a trial by jury, so you're being set for a jury trial.
I didn't refuse to plea. I asked questions of the judge, which he refused to answer, and then entered a plea on my behalf because apparently he thinks he represents
He explained to you
me.
that you would need to go to an attorney who could represent you to ask
And I
you
had questions about that, which he wouldn't answer. So,
Well,
yeah,
the
this
judge
is really
can't
a sham.
represent you, so he can't answer your
But
questions.
he can, apparently, because he can enter a plea on my behalf. Can he? He just did.
That's just the law, sir.
No, the law says that I have to understand the nature and cause of the charges against me in order to enter a plea. I'm telling him I don't understand that, and he doesn't care. This court is fraudulent. You see it, don't you?
No, sir, I'm just trying to get you to sign your paperwork. Do you want to sign your
It's not my paperwork, it's your
Right,
paperwork.
then I'm done. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. It's not fun when you do business at gunpoint. Now, I truly believe that most bureaucrats are actually very good people. I think they honestly believe and have told themselves that what they're doing is best for society, and they're simply failing to see the harm that their actions cause in society. Because with government, anytime it steps in to interfere in the marketplace, it creates what are called unintended consequences. Now, oftentimes those unintended consequences are far worse than the initial behavior they wish to prohibit in the first place. Now, I believe that it is never justifiable to violate one person's rights for another person's needs. No matter how good your or my ideas about the way society should be run are, we are never justified in going to our neighbors and demanding money to pay for it. See, the problem is this. With government, any request that they make of you, anytime they want you to do something, if you say no long enough and follow it out to its logical conclusion, the answer, the reason, the justification always comes down to this. And that's because government is nothing more than a group of men and women who do business under the threat of violence. JFK said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable." I think it's time we evolve past the phase of revolutions to a society where people see the value in voluntary interactions based on mutual consent, where people truly are equal, where there is no group of men and women exercising force over others, unless of course they've contracted to do so in a mutually agreeable fashion. I'm Sam I Am. You're watching the Obscure Truth Network.